Over the long weekend, Kamala Harris put out a statement attacking Donald Trump for accepting the invitation of Gold Star families to honor their loved ones at Arlington Cemetery, those who were killed at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan, those who have been ignored by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. She wrote on Twitter, "Let me be clear, the former president disrespected sacred ground, all for the sake of a political stunt. I will always honor the service and sacrifice of America's fallen heroes. I mourn them and salute them, and I will never politicize them." While multiple Gold Star families put out a joint statement in return, they wrote, in part, "President Trump was invited by us, the Gold Star families, to attend the solemn ceremonies commemorating the 3-year anniversary of our children's deaths. He was there to honor their sacrifice. Yet Vice President Harris has disgracefully twisted this sacred moment into a political ploy." They write, "Despite our multiple requests for a meeting to discuss the loss of our loved ones, Vice President Harris has repeatedly ignored us, showing a complete lack of empathy and accountability. This refusal to face the consequences of her administration's decisions is a deep betrayal to us as Gold Star families. President Trump, on the other hand, has been the only commander-in-chief to consistently recognize the heroism of our children. His attendance at Arlington was not for political gain, but to stand with us, to grieve with us, and to honor the legacy of those who gave everything for this nation." And did you see that statement almost anywhere? No. Not helpful. Not convenient. Wrong sort of Gold Star families. They were so upset, these families, that 8 of them put out videos. Relatively short videos on social media, amplified, of course, by the Trump campaign, because the Trump campaign, they're the ones getting attacked for this. And if they don't do the amplification, no one will. I mean, we'll do it here and a few other places, but overall, the media would black these people out and or smear them. So Trump is using, and his campaign using their platform to tell these people's stories. Because what happened in Afghanistan was a disgrace to this country. The way it happened, the shattered promises, absolutely disgraceful. The emboldening of our enemies around the globe, which we've seen in the aftermath of that chaotic withdrawal, the surprised alienation for our allies who didn't see some of this coming, the betrayal of people who were left behind and people who died in that process. And the commander-in-chief and his co-pilot, Kamala Harris, she didn't even show up for the dignified transfer. She was at the vice presidential mansion on the day of this. She was off the campaign trail on the day of this anniversary. Could have made the quick, easy drive to Arlington, didn't show up, but she's throwing and lobbing political grenades at Trump for showing up, having been invited by these families. Harris and Biden won't talk to these people. They've asked. They get crickets in return. And as I said earlier, a lot of them kind of held their tongue, especially about her, until she put out that statement, accusing Trump of defiling the memories and the sacred ground and all that, saying, on the other hand, I will always honor and mourn and respect. I will never politicize. That was just too much for these Gold Star families. We don't have time to get to all of these clips, so let's just start with Darren Hoover. He'll introduce himself here in Cut 3.
My name is Darren Hoover, and I'm the Gold Star father of United States Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover. We invited President Trump. We are the ones that asked for the video and the pictures to be taken at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. This was a very solemn wreath laying in our son's name, along with the Sergeant Nicole G. family, as well as 2 of our catastrophically injured military members that were there on that horrific day in the honor of our Abbey Gate 13.
Darren Hoover goes on, cut 4.
Let me be clear. There was no politics discussed, none whatsoever. There was also not an assault that we observed take place, or did we hear it? I don't know where this is coming from, but it's disgusting and gross.
And then in cut 5, he sort of hones in on his message specifically for Kamala Harris.
Don't forget, Kamala, you were the last one in the room. You and Joe Biden made the final decision on how to pull out of Afghanistan. You created the chaos and mayhem for the military to accomplish their goals. Our sons and daughters made the best of a difficult situation, as they had been trained to do. They adapted and overcame all of that and came out as heroes, something that you will never know or understand.
And cut 6.
Kamala, we have been treated with the utmost respect, compassion, and understanding by President Trump, something you and Joe Biden have refused to do since August 26, 2021. No, where were you and Joe Biden on August 26, 2024? Nowhere near Arlington Cemetery. You couldn't be bothered to be with us or even say our kids' names, just as you had done for the last 3 years. Neither one of you have called to speak with us or share in our grief. I wonder, Kamala, do you sleep at night securely in your bed? Or do you have nightmares of our kids because it was your incompetence and negligence that got our kids murdered?
He went on to say, you should be ashamed and embarrassed that your lack of empathy and decency as a human being, at your lack of empathy and decency as a human being. You are only in this for the power and the prestige. You don't care for our military. You should hang your head in shame. That was one Gold Star father. Here's another, Mark Schmitz, in cut 8.
This is Mark Schmitz, Gold Star father of Marine Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz. Here we are on a beautiful holiday weekend day. I got to stop what I'm doing, spending time with what's left of my family, to address a heinous, vile, and disgusting post put out by Kamala Harris, trying to incite those that don't follow the truth that President Trump was in Arlington as a political stunt. Shows you how much you know about the 13 families. We invited him to be there.
Mark Schmitz goes on, cut 9.
Why did we want Trump there? It wasn't to help his political campaign. We wanted a leader. That explains why you and Joe didn't get a call. Imagine for a second that your kid is killed, and there's a president of the United States willing to take you under his wing and listen to you. That's what we found in President Trump. Certainly not you, and certainly not Joe Biden.
They have reached out for years and gotten nothing back from the people responsible for these policies. So they've gotten to know Trump. They invited him to this. He showed up. And now the scandal is somehow about that and Trump. And the Gold Star families are just this very inconvenient obstacle to the narrative that the media loves coming back to. And so they're just sort of discarded like trash. Not to be listened to, not to be cared about, not to be trusted, not to be believed, not to be heard, unlike the convenient Gold Star families who criticize Republican presidents and candidates, like Cindy Sheehan or Khazir Khan. These clips that you're hearing, almost none of them have been played anywhere on mainstream media. And because the Trump campaign is out there amplifying these voices, it's like, oh, well, they're just being used by Trump. These are adults with agency who have gone through hell, and they wanted leadership and accountability, and they got none of that from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And it is such a bad look for Harris, especially to put out this statement. I understand why the media would try to ignore this. It is not good for her. So let's just sweep this under the rug, put this off to the side, and hope the American people and average voters don't hear too much about this. Let's hear from another one. Jim McCollum in Cut 12.
My name is Jim McCollum. I am the Gold Star father of United States Marine Corps Lance Corporal Riley McCollum, killed in Afghanistan, August 26, 2021. How do you sleep at night knowing it was you, this administration, you and Biden, you being the last one in the room, are responsible for the death of our 13 kids? You have failed for 3 years and 8 months to acknowledge our kids, to acknowledge me. You don't know me. You've never spoken to me. You've never reached out to me. You have failed in your duties as vice president. You have been nothing but disrespectful to me and the families of the 13.
You don't acknowledge me. You don't know me. You've never spoken to me. You've never reached out to me. You've been nothing but disrespectful to me and these families. But she has the audacity and the gall, knowing that the media will take her side, to attack Donald Trump as the disrespectful character in this, the disrespectful party in this. The fact that he was invited by these people that she ignores, whose loved ones' names she doesn't speak. She'll go off, how dare we speak Merry Christmas, when she's defending the honor of illegal immigrants, but she will not speak the names of the Abbey-gate 13. And she won't meet with those families. And when Trump does, at their behest, she comes after him. No wonder they're so angry. Here's a woman named Christy Shamblin in Cut 15.
Vice President Harris, my name is Christy Shamblin. My daughter-in-law, Sergeant Nicole Leanne G., was killed in the Afghanistan exit at Abbey-gate. President Trump and his team were respectful. They listened to our stories and didn't talk much at all. We welcomed them that day, and they were comfort to our family. Vice President Harris, I ask you, why won't you return a call and explain to us how you call my daughter-in-law's death a success? Vice President Harris, why will you not express your condolences yourself? Why have we never heard from you? And finally, why would you take a day where we celebrated the death of our loved one and use it to disparage not only them, but us? President Trump has called, President Trump shows up, and President Trump takes the time to hear our loved ones' stories. Why won't you do the same?
I have time for one more. I can't even play even close to all of this. They put out so much content, they were so upset. But I want you to hear at least some of it, including this from Herman Lopez in Cut 16.
My name's Herman Lopez. I'm a Gold Star father. My son, Corporal Hunter Lopez, was a U.S. Marine killed in action on August 26, 2021. This message is intended for Vice President Kamala Harris. You indicated in your post that you support the military and military families. I, for one, have not seen that support. It's been 3 years since my son was killed in action, and myself, my family, and other Gold Star families have not seen any support from you or your administration. You may make hollow promises about the economy or anything else you'd like to make promises about. But one thing that I ask of you, and the reason I'm making this message, is for you to stop making comments about your support for the military. As a Gold Star father, I know that you have not supported us. I know that you have not supported other Gold Star families.
I mean, this is devastating. One after another, devastating. She chose to pick this fight. She could have left it to others to go in this grotesque way and pretend like Donald Trump shouldn't have been at Arlington, having been invited there by these mourning families that she's ignored. But she couldn't resist. She went in thinking she's the good guy. She attacked Trump, and in the process, very clearly, these Gold Star families felt attacked themselves. And for the first time in some cases, decided to speak out very strongly and forcefully. Boy, were they mad. And boy, can you not blame them. And yet, Kamala Harris, of course, has not taken any questions about this. She doesn't take questions. She might not do another interview for a few weeks or more. Who knows? The media has, to a large extent, ignored these people. And they're still trying to beat the drum that this is a Trump problem, that he was there. At their invitation. Like, that's the scandal. As opposed to the slaughter of their kids in an avoidable terrorist attack in a cataclysmic policy failure by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who don't even have the decency to talk to the people who were affected by that failure. And to just try to turn this into a hit on Trump, it's exhausting. And that's just as an observer. My empathy, I can only imagine, as I've said during this hour, I can only imagine the seething rage that it took for these people to put these videos out en masse in response to what she wrote. This should be the #1 story in the country. And I think a lot of Democrats and their media friends are hoping, if we just close our eyes for long enough, it was a long weekend, people were distracted, let's move on.